I'm going to create a newsletter for my vibe coding project, Reading Curator, and you can watch over my shoulder. So Reading Curator is basically a book discovery site. It has lots of different interactive tools that you can use to find authors, books, and different genres to explore. And elsewhere on the channel, I do a deep dive into how I vibe coded Reading Curator. This project is built on Netlify, and if you're going to use Netlify forms for growing your newsletter or email list, just make sure you have forms turned on. So you can see here I've activated prior to recording the video. I'm going to head over to Cursor and show you the prompt that I'm going to use. So I want to create a lead gen form for a newsletter for this website. It should be a Netlify form, and this will tell Cursor that it should integrate with Netlify and encourage people to join my email list and get great reads. And I'm currently using Claude for Sonnet. I'm actually going to switch into max mode because it is a little bit faster. I'll just make sure I'm in agent mode. Once I put in the prompt to pull down the latest version from GitHub, Cursor identified that there were issues between the version that I have in GitHub and locally on my computer. And that's because my VA is probably working on this site as well. So I was able to chat with Cursor to get it to resolve all of these issues. Now I'm just going to make sure that the latest changes are on my local repo, which they are, which is great. So now I'm going to open up a new chat, and my rule for Cursor is if you're ever adding a new feature, always start with a new chat. Otherwise, I find it can get confused. You can also use Cursor memories, and I have another video on the channel where I do a deep dive into how to use Cursor memories. I want to create a lead gen form for a newsletter for this website. It should be a Netlify form and encourage people to join my email list. So I'm going to put in another prompt while this one is working in the background. Preview this site for me on 1000. And this is basically compile a version of the site that I can interact with locally on my computer before I push everything to GitHub and it gets synced with Netlify. So let's go back to the original prompt. So I have the email sign up Astro component. So if you're not familiar with Astro, that's actually the web framework that I use. I like it because it's a static website. So basically it's blazingly fast compared to WordPress. I'm going to go back over to Cursor. It's created the sign up form. Now it's going to create a thank you page, a newsletter form for key pages, and then test the Netlify form. The reason why I do a local preview is I want to make sure everything is working on my desktop before I publish it to GitHub. So you can see here, there are a couple of issues. Interestingly, they're not issues on the live site, so I may need to ask Cursor to fix that. So let's go back over and see how it's. So it's added the newsletter form to the homepage in a prominent position, and it's going to update the post layouts to include it at the end of each post. So let's go back over to preview. Okay, so there is the new form that Cursor has created. Get great books delivered weekly. Join thousands of readers discovering their next favorite book through curated recommendations. And one thing I find with AI is it can be quite optimistic about the social proof. Clearly, this is a brand new form. I don't have thousands of readers or email subscribers, so I would actually edit that copy. And I'm not actually giving great books to readers either. So I would want to change that as well. So let's go back over to Cursor. So it's still working through. The Cursor has fixed a few linting errors. Now it's testing the form or the Netlify form functionality for me by building the entire project. While that's building, I've navigated over to the left-hand sidebar of Cursor, and I've gone into source, and then I'm going to go down into components, and I'm going to look for the email sign-up form, and I'm actually just going to make a change to this myself. Now you can of course just prompt Cursor do this for you, but sometimes I find it's just faster to go in and edit the code myself. So interestingly, there are actually two components. So I didn't actually know it built up like this. So there is the email sign up Astro component. So this isn't actually the section that I edit. So I did a bit of investigation and I scrolled down a bit further and I found newsletter sign up.astro. So this actually has the copy that I'm going to edit. Join thousands of readers. So I'm just going to say readers because I don't have any subscribers yet, although hopefully that will change once we roll out this form. Get more book recommendations and reading insights delivered weekly. Yeah, that sounds fine. Discover great books to read every week. Okay, so the rest of this text all looks good. I'm just going to keep all changes. Meanwhile, you'll notice on the right-hand side that Cursor is still compiling the project. And that's actually because this project has over 500 blog posts, some of which I wrote myself, some of which I vibe coded, and some of which I commissioned and took from another project. So it doesn't usually take this long to build a site, but this is probably bigger than your standard vibe coding project. Once I saved my changes to that particular file, the component updated automatically. So there's still a section here that says join 10,000 book lovers. Now I don't like lying to people online. So let's see if we can find that particular section as well. So 10,000. So I'm just going to say join book lovers. Maybe let's put in an emoji. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to save my changes. Always remember to save your changes in Cursor. It doesn't always automatically save. I'm going to head back over to Chrome, click reload, and great. Yeah, so it's updated the micro copy, it's updated the headline, and it's updated the body copy below the headline, and it has a little bit of, or a few benefit bullet points here as well, which look good. Now, I do find that the email address is usually enough to grow an email list. First name, you can actually reduce the amount of subscribers you're going to get. So I'm going to ask Cursor to remove the first line or first name field, but here, so remove first name field from the form. Again, I'm in agent mode and Claude 4 Sonnet. I've heard good things about GPT-5, but I found it's a little bit more pedantic than Claude 4 Sonnet, which is why I use Claude 4 Sonnet Max mode. I do tend to max out my Cursor credits each month. Okay, so it's removing the first name field from the newsletter form for me. Okay, so let's head back over. Great. Okay, so now let's test the form. I'm going to put in my email address. Okay, so I got a 404 when I signed up, and I'll just copy the URL as well. So Cursor saying it needs to fix the form action to include the trailing slash to match my site. Okay, so let's try that again. And that's the thing with vibe coding. You actually just need to test everything, as these things tend to break or are just not built properly. So you can't do it blindly. Oh, great. Okay, so welcome to Curator. Thanks for subscribing. You will receive your first weekly book recommendation, what to expect. And then it links to some of the interactive tools that I've built on the site. Now there is a 10,000 book lovers field here, so I'm going to change that in a second. If you're interested in these interactive tools, do check out my other video about this particular project. But before I forget, let's go back and find that particular page. Where can I edit the newsletter success page? Now I could probably just search for this in the search bar in Cursor, or I could go on through the left hand sidebar. But sometimes I just find if I ask Cursor questions, it'll find them quicker. Although I probably am using some of my book credits or some of my Cursor credits. Okay, great. Okay, so sign up form looks good. Now, if I started getting a lot of email subscribers, I actually would put I suppose a tripwire or something to purchase here as well. I'm not actually going to do this. Now I've noticed another bug. So we have two footers here on this page. So I'm going to take a screenshot. I'm on a Mac, so I pressed Command Shift 4. I'm going to paste this screenshot directly into Cursor and say fix the double footer on sign up page. So Cursor's spotted the double footer issue. And now it's going to fix it by removing the duplicate footer component. And that's actually something I've come across quite a bit when I start customizing the templates that I use, including Astro. Now we have a footer not defined. Go back to the page, probably because Cursor is still working on it. Let's go back over to, going to copy the error, paste that in to Cursor. So I'm going backwards and forwards, fixing the multiple issues. It looks like the trailing slash issue is back. It needs to set up a redirect to handle the trailing slash issue. Now, again, I could fix all of this myself by going in and fixing the canonical URLs. But I'm going to focus mostly on vibe coding for this video. So let's go back over, put in my email address. Great. Okay, so the duplicate footer is fixed. And also the thank you page looks good. All right, so now let's just see, has it integrated this successfully on a blog post? Okay, so I'm getting 404 on best fantasy authors, which is odd because I know the live version, these all work okay. Okay, so I'm going to say two things here. One, I am getting 404 on blog posts, but they work okay on live site. Have you, well, actually, let's just fix that first. Don't want to confuse Cursor. I'll just put this in as a separate prompt. Have you integrated email sign up on the blog post? So you can see here, because I put this in as a separate prompt, it basically gets added to the queue for Cursor to work on. Okay, so Cursor has integrated email sign up on the blog posts, and it's going to show me an example. Give me example URL. So we know it's on the homepage. Let's try Best Stephen King book. All right, so here is the post. Now I am working with a VA to fix some of these issues. For example, the broken YouTube video, and to add some images, book covers. Like I said, the site is still very text heavy. Here's the video. Oh, great. So it has the email sign up form at the bottom of the post. So things are looking good. Get weekly reads. Excellent. I'm going to just ignore the broken YouTube embed for the moment and just focus on the email signups, because that's what we're doing for this video. Okay, so now that I'm happy with everything, I'm going to say clean up the project and update at tasks.md. Now, I didn't show you tasks.md, but basically I have a tasks file that I've written myself or edited myself and then ideated with Cursor for features like this. And it breaks down my features into smaller steps. So this enables me to go back and pick up things if I haven't worked on a project for a while. So clean up the project and update tasks.md. And then I'm going to say push to GitHub. And I've written a GitHub deployment guide. So I have another video on the channel where I explain how to use Cursor with GitHub. But basically this guide explains exactly how to push a project to GitHub so it's deployed. So it's asking for my explicit permission. And the reason why it does this is I set a Cursor memory that it should always ask for my explicit permission before pushing to GitHub, because I found it was overwriting some changes and issues with my vibe coding project. So it's going to push 2 commits to GitHub now. Looks like Cursor has found some other redundant files from various features that I've added to the project. So once this is run, it should back up the entire project to GitHub. One thing I like about Cursor is these updates. It always makes me feel like I'm making progress. So yes, I want you to commit. So commit. So it's committed all of my changes. So I'm just going to navigate over to GitHub, go to my repository, and you can see here that some of the changes are now live on this particular project or in this particular GitHub repo. And because Netlify is connected to the repo, it should automatically start to rebuild the site. So I'm going to go back to Netlify and you can see it's building the site. So I'm just going to let this run for a minute. So the site has been published. So I'm going to go over to one of the blog posts, 15 magical authors like J.K. Rowling. And interestingly, or perhaps pleasingly, it's actually customized the heading for the sign up form based on the post in question. Now, arguably, I could go back and ask it to style it a little bit better, but let's just test it. So I'm going to put in my email address and I'll troubleshoot the styling issue in a moment. So I've clicked subscribe and it hasn't taken me to the thank you page. Let's go back and check the Netlify form, and the submission hasn't worked on Netlify either. So let's go back over to Cursor and say there are a few issues. One, styling of form broken on posts like authors like J.K. Rowling. Okay, so the form isn't actually on the homepage on the live site. Form not on homepage on live site. I can see it on local version. Is cache issue? Form submission on that blog post page didn't go to at newsletter success. So Cursor believes it's spotted what the issues are. Now, one thing with vibe coding is these AI agents, Claude and GPT and so on, are often confidently wrong. So it'll say it's found the issue, then you'll troubleshoot it and you'll find it. So Cursor said it's fixed the newsletter form issue. And you can see here it started to add new features as well. So I didn't actually ask it to add a CAPTCHA. So you have to watch out for this. Sometimes these AI tools will start doing things that you don't want it to do. It's fixed the form actions, it's matched or fixed the styling, and it's pushed the deployment. So again, it's going to take a few minutes for the site to build. The site has rebuilt. So you can see here we have the sign up form on the homepage. We have the CAPTCHA, which I didn't ask for, but it's probably a good idea. I'm going to opt in, and you can see here the opt in did not take me to the thank you page. Let's go over and see, did the form submission work? No, it did not. Okay, so that's something I need to go back and fix. Let's just check one of the blog posts. So it's fixed the styling. Put in my email address here and see, does this work? Okay, so it hasn't fixed the styling either. So I'm going to go back over to Cursor and I'm going to spend a few minutes troubleshooting this. So put in this prompt. When I input my details into the form, let's just change this to email. Does not go through to the newsletter success page or push the submissions to Netlify. This happens on the homepage and blog post forums. Carefully fix, review and fix. I went backwards and forwards with Cursor a few times, pushed a couple of builds and got the form working correctly. Just to verify, I'm going to head over to Netlify. I'm going to go to forms and you can see here it has recognized the newsletter sign up form and it's also recognized my submission. So the form is working correctly. Now, if I start getting more traffic to the site, I could probably optimize this further by turning it into a pop-up that appears before people leave the site. That's known as exit intent. And I could also create an actual lead magnet. So for example, a free book or a printable or a checklist or something that would encourage more people to opt in. But I think for 4,000 or 3,500 visitors a month, this is probably a good starting point. So hope you enjoyed this video. I have loads of videos on the channel all about vibe coding. So do check out the rest of the playlist. And if you want to get some prompts that you can use for getting more from AI, then do check out the resource I have at the bottom of this video.